Landlords in Los Angeles County may soon be required to install air conditioners by the county. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over this whole proposal to force landlords to install air conditioners for their tenants. So I've brought up proposals like this before, and I have the same argument that I've always had, and that is that, simply put, some landlords are offering units without air conditioning at a lower cost so that the tenant can afford it. Now, if we have to maintain an air conditioner, that's an additional expense that's put on us, right? And so a tenant might be sitting there saying, okay, well, I'm going to just buy my own window air conditioning unit, and that way I'll be able to easily regulate what the temperature is within, my small unit, and be able to, save on the electric bill, and I'll worry about maintenance, etc. myself, and I'll take the slightly discounted rent. And that's the way it should be, okay? It should be an agreement between the landlord and the tenant. We're not forcing anybody to live in humid, hot, uncomfortable conditions. But according to the state, that's exactly what we're doing. Oh my goodness, oh no. You're forcing them to sit in blistering heat, and you're killing them. They are dying because of you, the landlord. No, that's just not the case. And the reason that it's not the case is because 99% of landlords already have air conditioning, okay? The grand majority of landlords already have air conditioning within their units, and we don't need the government stepping in there telling us what to do, okay? It's a joke. It's an absolute joke, and once again, it's about trying to solve a problem that doesn't need to be solved. Okay? How many times have you heard about people who have air conditioning who decided not to turn it on to save on the bill, and then they ended up suffering the effects of heat exhaustion or heat stroke or whatever, right? That's what I've heard about. Those not people who don't even have air conditioning. This is wrong. It's stupid. I don't agree with it. And, I'm going to go over the details here in just a second. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. First of all, if you're a landlord, do you provide air conditioning for all of your tenants? I do. Every single unit I own has air conditioning. And I don't live in a place that is like, as hot as the desert of Los Angeles, obviously, but it gets plenty hot and humid here in the summertime, okay? So yeah, I think it's absolutely necessary to have it if you want to get the best rents possible. But I'm not going to sit here and dictate that, hey, every single landlord has to have air conditioning and that's the only way it's going to work. Because you know what? One of my tenants said, hey, the upstairs unit inside our house, or the upstairs bedroom inside our house, it was hot. And I was like, well, the house has central air conditioning. I can't help it if the upstairs is hot, but you can install a window unit if you want to. And they did, okay? And they took it with them when they left. So I had no problem with it. Anyway, let's get into this article and see what it says about the situation. This article is coming from finance.yahoo.com, and it says, Los Angeles County residential landlords may soon be required to install air conditioners to fight the heat. Yeah, whew. This is such a huge problem. I mean, here we are in 2024, and you know what? Hundreds of people have died every year because No, I'm joking. Okay, hundreds of people are not dying because landlords are not paying for air conditioning. Okay. Anyway, let's see what the article says. Los Angeles County landlords may soon be required to install air conditioners in their residential rental units, although no such mandate currently exists, and many apartments already have air conditioning. Tenants in units without air conditioning have long complained of stifling heat in their apartments during the summer. That's one reason why the Board of Supervisors recently approved a motion authorizing them to begin investigating the issue and accepting public comment. Los Angeles' long hot summers keep getting longer and hotter. The supervisors are investigating the feasibility of mandating a maximum temperature in residential rental units, meaning that all landlords will be required to keep their units below the maximum temperature. Those who can't keep their units below temperature will be required to install air conditioning or keep their units cooling ready, which means making necessary modifications that would allow tenants to install their own air conditioning units. And I don't know what they mean by cooling ready. Okay, I mean, we have to be able to have a window so that you can put your window air conditioner in there and an electric outlet. I mean, it seems like 99% of units are already ready for tenants to install their own air conditioning. So, what I don't want to see is them saying, okay, well, landlords are required to keep their units below this maximum temperature that I guess the city is going to set. Okay. And what is that maximum temperature going to be? Is it going to be 80 degrees? Is it going to be 75 degrees? Is it going to be 90 degrees? What is the maximum temperature that they think should be allowed inside of a rental unit? It's probably going to be too low, okay? And that's going to be an issue because, you know what, a lot of, especially, you know, depending on the humidity, etc., it's very difficult to get some units to be below certain temperatures. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible. But you know what, you might measure in one bedroom that's in the upstairs and it might be above that temperature, and meanwhile the entire rest of the house is below the temperature. So, you know, who knows? Now, I don't even agree with this law in places that are super hot, like Phoenix, Arizona, where in the summertime it's above 110. I don't even agree with this law there, okay? Or in a place like, you know, southern Florida or southern Texas, where it'll be 100 degrees with 100% humidity. I just don't agree with it. You know, I think that the landlords who are trying to get the most rent possible and try to, you know, provide the best housing possible, of course they're going to provide air conditioning, right? But I just don't like the idea of government mandates. And that's why I ask, you know, do you agree with the government having to step in and try to resolve this issue? I don't. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's a complete waste of time and resources, and that instead of actually helping the tenants, what it's going to do is it's going to get landlords caught up, okay? And that's really what a lot of these laws do. You get small mom and pop landlords such as myself, right? And I keep all my units in good shape, but let's say the air conditioner breaks down, and then the temperature, of course, inevitably is going to start to rise. I have had air conditioning units break inside my units before, right? And so inevitably this happens. So now the tenant is hounding you. Maybe they're citing you or fining you because according to them, you're not fixing it quickly enough and your unit is above this threshold temperature, right? So yeah, this could end up being a cash grab for the county. This could end up being just a way that tenants use to try to retaliate against landlords. And I just don't see the benefit of it, okay? It's just not going to help things. And, you know, it's not necessary. So yeah, these laws are dumb. Because the proposed ordinance is in a preliminary investigative stage, the maximum temperature has not been set. A similar measure went into effect for Palm Springs in 2018 and set the maximum temperature at 80 degrees. Although Palm Springs is a desert community, many parts of Los Angeles County, specifically the San Gabriel and San Fernando valleys, experience triple-digit heat during the summer. As climate change becomes more of a factor, those heat waves I'm not even going to read that garbage about climate change, right? It's always been hot in LA. It's in the middle of the freaking desert, okay? And we're like, oh, it's so hot here now. Like, yeah, I remember, you know, back in the 80s, and I was a kid, and they were talking about how hot it was in LA. Okay, so don't give me this joke like, oh yeah, oh in the past it was so much cooler there. No, it was cool in Phoenix in the past. No, it was always in the middle of the desert. You know, yeah, these places were always hot. It was hot in Kansas City. I remember some heat waves in Kansas City back in the 80s where it was over, triple digit, over 100 degrees for weeks. Okay, so it is what it is, you know. Climate changes over time. Yeah, maybe it's hotter now than it was in the past, right? But we're going to go and say, is the problem with the heat, right? Is that the responsibility of the landlord? Or is it a agreement between the landlord and the tenant? Or is it something that the government needs to step in there and mandate that landlords do? I don't think it is. I think that the government, once again, is, they're overreaching. They are stepping into an area where they just need to leave things alone. Leave people alone, okay? The landlords who make the most money, the ones that everybody wants to live at, they're going to be providing air conditioning. I mean, I would like them to do a census on this, right? What percentage of rental units within Los Angeles County don't have any sort of air conditioning? You know, no swamp coolers, no dehumidifier, nothing, okay? Or humidifier, whatever they call, their cooling device, right? They've got nothing. I bet the number is minuscule. I bet that it is, less than 5%, probably less than 1%, okay? It's just not common to see a lot of units anymore. I remember back in the day, that was different. I remember back in the 80s, you would see places that didn't have air conditioning. In fact, the house that I grew up in, one of the very first houses that I lived in, didn't have central air. It had a large window air conditioning unit, but, that's just the way things were back then. So anyway, let me know what you think of this whole situation down in the comment section below.